What's up, guys? It's your girl Jamia Zarzuela, the political poet, and welcome to Poetry, Prose, and Politics. This episode is sponsored by Coconut Casual, a Black-owned lifestyle brand focused on positively impacting our globe by promoting female empowerment. It's all love at Coconut Casual. And remember, if it's for us and by us, then support us. So on the last episode, we talked about how I felt before COVID, pre-pandemic, before shit hit the fan, essentially. And today I want to talk about or discuss after the pandemic, after the protesting, after, and what it is that we need to do in order to see the change that we want. Alongside of being in the midst of what it is that we're going through. So on today's podcast, I decided to bring out my auntie because she is one of my favorite educators, literally an educator. And she's taught me so many things. One thing that she explains effortlessly, I feel like with ease, and if someone can't get this, I feel like they don't want to hear the message because she delivers it so well, is the difference between racism and prejudice and why a Black person can't be racist. So that's one thing that I'm going to have her discuss, along with a number of other things. To get started, though, I do want to introduce her. Her name is Alphalisha Johnson, but I call her TT. Say hey, TT.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And yeah, like I said, I wanted to bring you on because one thing that I think you do well is definitely talk about, or not talk about, but you break down things in a digestible way. One thing that I want to do on this podcast for people to understand law, politics, etc., social constructs. And I was talking to you about, well, a number of things while this whole thing was happening, how, during this whole thing that's been going on in our world and in America. But one thing that we were talking about is how being on our phone, seeing on social media, the outrage that we've been feeling, and how we kind of have to just distance ourselves socially, or distance ourselves from social media. Why do you think that is? What do you think's been going on?
Well, because of all of the latest incidents with the police brutality, it has kind of, and along with the pandemic going on, it has really brought some true feelings of everyone to the forefront. I think in the past, probably since the 70s, people have been able to kind of hide behind what they truly feel. And at this point, because of what happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and again, the pandemic, you have to really kind of either stand up or sit down, so to speak, and because of that, I think we're seeing a lot of white people in general either take a stand one way or the other. So we are seeing, the good side of that. We are seeing white folks who probably wouldn't have said very much in the past take a stand and be allies. Unfortunately, on the other side, we've also seen a lot of people's true feelings as far as how they feel about non-whites. And so with them being out of work and them being in a position of, in their minds, feeling just as oppressed as we are because they're out of work, now they need somebody to blame it on. And so now here they come with their anger that has just been dormant maybe towards us, but it's always been there. And now again, everybody's speaking about how they feel. Most people are speaking about how they feel, and we've said this before. If you're not speaking at this point, you are basically agreeing with
Our oppressors.
our oppressors.
You're a part of the problem.
Right.
And it's interesting because people think that racism, this battle of racism that we have is a new thing. Some people even have the nerve to say that it doesn't exist, even though they've never experienced it. But they say that racism doesn't exist. They say that COVID, heck, that doesn't exist. And it's really interesting to see that Americans are the only ones that are, well, not the only ones, but we're being restricted from visiting other countries simply because we're the only ones that are refusing to just stay home. And I think that mindset, this privileged mindset, also piggybacks on why racism still exists, is because so many people want to ignore it. So many people want to pretend like it doesn't exist, or flat out they are a part of the problem, and they'll continue to push that problem. For me, being on social media, like you said, it makes me see every single day the problem. And that's not really easy to actually face that. Even as a Black person, you know that there's this problem, you live with this problem, but until it's at the forefront on your feed every single day, it's literally what you're consuming, and it's really painful. And I wonder why my grandparents respond a little bit better than my generation does.
I think it has to do with their experience with it, and the fact that it was a part of their expectation of how people were during that time. We kind of grew up with shades on, so to speak, and we were kind of sheltered a little bit from a lot of the hate. I think when we experienced it, it was kind of like a big deal, to us. It was like, oh my gosh, this happened to me today. With our grandparents, and even with my dad, my dad is 70. It was almost everyday life, unfortunately. And so when it's something that you have to live with on a consistent basis, I just think you're unfortunately you're able to deal with things, negative things in a lot easier than some of us who, when we see it, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going on. Like this really just happened to me, that I really just get discriminated against. Right. This person really just say this to me,
Right.
Because it happened to them on a daily basis. They lived in a time where there were signs up that said whites only. That was a part of, their normal life. And, we were fortunate that we didn't have to experience that. But what comes with that is a sheltered from, everyday racism. And so when it starts to happen, or when we experience it, we don't deal with it as well as they do.
Yeah, because like you said, Granddad, he didn't go to an integrated school, right? Was he the first generation to be able to do that?
No, he went to an integrated school because he went to high school in the North. When he was in the South, though, he had to experience segregation.
Yeah. And so I just find it very interesting that that's a generation away from me. It's, my mom, the way that y'all grew up versus how I grew up. Obviously, you see the technology advances, but I feel like I almost, I'm told to appreciate the advances of civil rights movement, and how we have, as Black people, have been able to overcome a lot of oppression. But yet still I feel angry because I'm fearful for my Black brother or my Black sister, my Black husband and my Black son, my Black life, y'all. And my granddad is in this idea of, well, it's an everyday thing. And unfortunately, that was a time where lynching still, well, actually, what's interesting? Lynching still go on. We just kind of overlook it because it's not as often, but whereas he had to, it was more so in the news. Now, one thing that I do want to dive into is the fact that you say, many people say, and I agree with it, but Black people cannot be racist. I, for the life of me, cannot explain this as graciously as you do, because I understand what both terms mean. I understand what a racist is. I know what somebody who is prejudiced looks like. I know that, I'm capable of being prejudiced, but people say that if what I said was a prejudice thing or my action was a prejudice thing as a Black person, that, I can stand by, but they misinterpret that and they think that racism and prejudice is like intertwined, or it's synonymous. It's the same thing, and it doesn't go they go hand in hand, but they're not the same word.
Right. Well, first, let me say this. I think the first place people's mind go when they hear Black people can be racist is that we're speaking to the morality of Black people and it being superior than everybody else. And let me dispel that. That is absolutely not what people mean when they say Black people cannot be racist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's important to know. The second part is you pretty much just said it. The biggest problem is we use, and Black people, white people, everybody does this. Because we talk about it so commonly, we use prejudice and racism, synonymously. We use them as the same word, and they have two distinct, different meanings. Most of us know what prejudice means. It means to prejudge someone based on what they look like,
right,
or something about them. And when you prejudge them, you stereotype them, or you make a decision on whether or not you like them, don't like them, or whatever you feel about them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's prejudice. Everybody on the planet has some prejudice. Black people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people. Everybody not only can be prejudiced, but unfortunately are prejudiced to some extent. We all hold some type of prejudice towards people based on, what we think about them, what experiences we've had with those folks. Now, racism is a little bit different in the way that prejudice or racism is the manifestation of prejudice. Okay,
right.
So I can be prejudiced against somebody, say they have red-haired people. I can say I don't like red-haired people. They are all mean, or I have whatever problem with all people that are redhead. Okay, so I can be prejudiced against them. Now, racism would be me being able to oppress or marginalize all redhead people. Okay, when you look at the definition of racism, it has the actual word in there, marginalize. Marginalize means to treat people as unimportant or inferior based on the power that you have. Okay, so in general, Black people do not have power to oppress or marginalize the people that they are prejudiced against. And that is why we say it is not possible for Black people in general to be racist. We do not sit on judge benches in general as a whole and give out time to people, put them in prison. We do not own banks in general as Black people. As a whole, we don't have enough power in the economy to impact people that we might be prejudiced against.
Right.
We do not make decisions in the education system. We do not make the major decisions in the healthcare system. So we don't have the power in general to impact a large group of people that we would be prejudiced against. And so that is the reason why Black people cannot be racist. Again, it has nothing to do with us being superior morally, and we just are incapable of hate. We just don't have the power to impute racism on a group of people.
Specifically speaking in America, because I mean, while I feel like it is something that is universal on this planet, considering that several countries and even Africa have for so long been oppressed by Europe. We within, well, not this particular century, but the previous one. I feel, but because I will speak specifically to America, I feel that that is very much so true. I remember we were watching a really great movie about two men that just owned a bank. They weren't the bankers. The bankers. It was such a great movie, and it showed how the system, you change or you go against the grain, you fight with every single law that they place in front of you, and then they change the law on you so that you're not able to win. And to speak on that, racism, the noun, is to be prejudiced or to discriminate directly against a person or people on the bias of their membership or particular race or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Typically someone that is marginalized or a minority, the minority of, this country would be us. The marginalized is us, the oppressed is us. And for centuries, people have been, since we've come to America, people enslaving us proved that they were racist because they didn't believe that we were human enough, human enough for them, human at all. And then our greatest, well, I wouldn't say the greatest sin, but Independence Day, the reason why we don't celebrate Independence Day and we celebrated Juneteenth, and we would prefer to light firecrackers on Juneteenth, is simply because that wasn't our day. July 4th, 76, they didn't 1776, my bad. They didn't free us. We were still 3/4 of a person. And so with that, I think that it's really interesting that there's still a lot of hatred that is masked. They'll say, or specifically white people that are racist, bigots, they'll say, well, the reason why I'm so angry that these people are saying Black Lives Matter is actually because them saying Black Lives Matter makes it seem like nobody's lives matter at all. Really what they're saying, and then they'll turn around and say all lives matter. Really what I feel like they're saying when they say that is, here these people go with them wanting something, as if this country doesn't already owe us anything. I've already let it on, but I know that you believe that we deserve reparations. Why do you think that we deserve them?
Well, I don't know that I believe reparations for us is a money amount, though.
Yeah.
And I do say that.
I feel it's educational.
Right. It should be something that you cannot even put a number on. You can't put a value on, and then that is education. The thing is, people have to understand how far back we were set by not being able to be educated
at all
for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Obama has said it. Several people have always alluded to how important education is, and how it impacts us as a people to not be able to be educated. So that first, I think that education is a part of reparations. But I don't think that most Black people feel like, oh, we should just be given something. I think that we feel that we were put in positions by not only just slavery, but once we got here, not being able to be educated, not being told we can't read, being told or being redlined, being put into situations where it was kind of the survival of the fittest, and all the way up until mass incarceration. We were put in these positions without having any control. We didn't have any control of how things went for us for so long. And so now that we have a little bit more control, there's a lot of, well, you can do that, you have your control of, well, now, I mean, in 2020, we have a little bit more control, but we were set back for so long that still, like, my grandmother never learned how to read or write.
Right.
My own grandmother, she could not go to school because she was put into a situation where she had to work.
Right.
And so being the grandchild of somebody who was not able to attend school, I seen how that affected her economically. I see where that put my family over the next few years, over the next couple of generations.
Right.
I think directly I'm the first person in my family to finish college. My mother did it. None of my siblings did. And I'm not sure that any of my aunts on my mother's side did.
One.
Okay.
Auntie Sue.
Okay.
That was it.
So maybe I'm the second. So that's coming from generation, 2 generations, 3 generations. I'm the 3rd generation, and I'm the second person coming from a person that never got to go to school, right? And when you don't go to school, when you don't experience school, you don't know even the importance of how it impacts your families to teach it to them. Hey, you need to be going to school. This is important. You need to do this. You're more apt to say, hey, go out and get a job. That's the type of thing that has happened generationally with our people. We don't teach financial
I was about
education.
To touch on that too. Yeah.
We don't teach that, but we don't teach that because we don't know it. Right. We can't teach things we don't know. And I don't know this to be true for a lot of white people, but I assume that they have more information about finances earlier on than we do.
Simply because their grandparents were even able to get a loan.
Because they were able to get a loan, because they owned land. They understood the importance of having credit. They understood, having a good amount of money saved, and all of these things that
they could have.
We don't even have that. We don't even have that. That stuff is not even in our vocabulary until we're adults.
Right.
We're talking about people that had trust funds before they were even born.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the opportunity to have that because we're too busy trying to get out of the hole that
society put us in.
We've been in since 3 or 4 generations ago. So to me, that's why I say reparations is important, or something that I think that we should have. I think it should come in the form of education.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that many of us would take advantage of it if it is offered.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about reading was literally made illegal for us. When there is a law, when your country says that it is illegal for a person to read, I want to know what they expect the next couple of generations to do with when that law ends. If it was illegal for my great grandmother, is what I will pin that to, for her to read, why would she teach the importance for her grandchild to read? And then if no one can, how would she know? And then if she can't teach her grandchildren to read after, or their grandchildren to read after that, then you're talking about, I simply need to work to survive, to eat, to put food in your mouth, and to ensure that through the pandemic of 1918, through through the stock markets crashing in 1920 or 21, that we are surviving. We didn't have an education for us to there, or we didn't have a platform for us to stand on, because it was literally made illegal for us to read. Not only that, but when we were finally able to get schools, the books that we got were already ruined. And then they dare say that we were the ones to ruin them when we got them secondhand, third hand, at the brittle. That's something that Granddaddy has attested to me. It's important for me to have my education, simply because, that's something that's been robbed from us for several generations. Not only that, but you're talking about even in World War I and II, Black people weren't able to get into particular colleges. They wouldn't accept us. So yeah, maybe I'm not looking for reparations.
HBCUs came about.
That's exactly why they are about, or what they were about, is the fact that we needed a place where we were allowed to educate our own self. And so it's even funny for someone to say that, that university, that institute is racist because it's a historical Black college. No, we had to create that space for ourselves because you wouldn't let us in a space in our own country, in the place that we built, in the buildings that we built, the books that we printed. You wouldn't allow us to have a space to ensure that we were okay. So yeah, I'm not looking for cash reparations. I just think that it would be nice, with the fact that, I'm in college, so me being in college and having a child is not easy. And right. It doesn't matter that my husband's in the Army and I get, a scholarship. It's not easy to be a student that has to pay, community college even tuition, which is $1,300 that I don't have. Like, people just they can't just, pick it from a tree. I was going to say right. something inappropriate. They can't just pick it. We don't have money to just pick from a tree, because again, our family wasn't taught, or Black people in general, they weren't taught.
You just don't have the knowledge.
Yeah. Economic growth or anything.
I've heard it said that if you want to keep somebody in the dark or keep something from a person, put it in a book, and so if that is true, and we were not allowed to read books, how much knowledge did we miss? And to me, that's why I say, that is important. And that's why I know that, to me, when you gain knowledge, that is something no one can take from you. And that is the most important thing, having something no one can take from you. Did we do a lot to build this country? Absolutely. Did we get credit for it? Absolutely not.
No.
But I think one of the biggest things, which is why, I'm in education, is that we have to impress upon our people, it's incumbent upon us, the importance of being educated. And whatever field or whatever you decide to go into, you need to be educated to be the best at it. I think we just sometimes we try to go off the cuff for a lot of things. And that's fine, because we are very resourceful people and we're intelligent, honestly, by nature. So that's not a problem. But to have that piece of paper that you worked for,
mm-hmm.
that you can prove, hey, I
am capable.
Put in time.
Yeah.
I paid my due,
Mm-hmm.
I am capable, and I'm going to be successful at whatever it is you put in front of me, because I've already shown that I can endure. And so those things are important for us to get, and I can never say that enough. And so I always hope that, as I'm teaching young kids, all the kids, I always talk to them about the importance of education, but um, a little bit more minority kids, because I know sometimes, they don't understand. I don't know if we're always giving it to them at home. So we have to make sure that we're, and I say education, but I mean, go to school to do something,
Right.
go be, we need in our communities, we need welders, we need, plumbers, electricians, we need these people also. So if that's what you're learning to do, and those people get paid well, so we have to make sure that we have those people in our communities as well.
So with that being said, why do you think, well, I'll pose it in a way where because me personally, at the age of 18, I was extremely angry that, after graduating high school and all of this other stuff, I'm this 18-year-old person that's not adult enough, or actually I was 18 in high school, so I wasn't adult enough because I still had people telling me what to do. And then I was an adult by law, but not really, because even though they could send me off to war, I can't, buy alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. With somebody, I was somebody that was in debate club, like literally in debate club, lame. And I was the person that was at youth and government, and that was just what I love to do. But then on the flip side, I was, like I said, angry because I knew that, we have electoral college. We're not going to, like, my vote, I felt like my vote didn't count. My vote does count, but I felt like my vote at that time didn't matter. I felt like that, Democrats were going to give me the last pickings, even though, I couldn't really, I'm not going to vote Republican because I see that their ideals are, they say that they're conservative, and that's the reason why, and they base it behind, religion, but I really just see that it's, bigotry that's motivating them, and they try to just use, religion for an excuse. So then I have to deal with whatever Democrat politician there is, and they're not really for me, or they're not really doing anything for my community. And so I felt like, or I still feel like there are a lot of Black people that feel the same way as me. And how do we get Black people to lobby for or demand from a politician, hey, do you have a Black agenda? What are you going to do for my community before I vote for you? Why aren't Black people investing in, well, we probably already know that question, but why we're not investing in a candidate that's going to be either locally or, a presidential candidate? Why aren't we as invested or as upfront as everyone else would be? Even though we have this much anger, we protest, we do silent protesting, we go out and march, we wear a shirt, we kneel, and we are saying that we're trying everything, but so many Black people don't vote, and it's proven that they don't vote, and they say that they try everything except for voting. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I think we have to stop being so quick to subscribe to whatever political party. I'm just going to be honest. Because if you go back years, you could have literally, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party were switched as far as their beliefs are concerned. So we can't just subscribe there. We have to truly, truly find people, or, invest in researching in people who beliefs align with ours. Period. Right. I can't answer for you why, in general, we don't go. I know that one of the things that is a problem is we don't push local level voting the way we push the national vote once we're voting every 4 years for a president. And I know why I don't know why. I can assume why we don't show up even on the national level voting stage the way that we should. In history, outside of Barack Obama, all of the presidential candidates have looked almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
All of them. And so I laugh at people because I hear people even now saying, oh, Biden is not that much better, than Trump, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this is the only choices we've ever had. Like, why are we acting like this is new, that we've had to choose from two different, white men who honestly, their beliefs don't line up with ours. That has always been the case outside of President Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's laughable that people say, oh, well, Biden ain't that great either. No, we've never had great choices as Black people. We have never had them.
However, I was going to say, however, we have to show up and demand.
That's what I was going to get at is the next thing is we have to understand that by the time we are voting at the national level every 4 years, we've missed all the important votes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If that's the only time we show up and vote, which people don't because they say, well, I don't trust either one, so I'm not going. You've missed the important votes that happen between those 4 years with your local level politicians. Okay? So that's where it has to start for you to see actual change in your community. Because if we're being real honest, the president doesn't necessarily directly impact what's going on in your community. Right? So you have to vote locally. You have to put people in places locally that when they move up and you vote them to Congress and you vote them then to Senate,
right,
they've come from a place where you already know that they're aligned with what you believe in and what you think should be going on in your community.
Exactly.
Because they have to get there, right? And then you got a senator or a governor now that you're voting for president, but he climbed the ladder through the local level, and because you put him there. So now you have a viable candidate, but we don't give ourselves a chance is the thing that I believe we're doing in the Black community. We simply just say, well, it's not gonna vote, it's not gonna matter. How do we know that if we haven't really truly tested the theory? Because we have really never went in a large number and voted the way that we should have.
We saw it in Atlanta for Georgia.
We all see it in the Black communities, and Michelle Obama's documentary, she talked a little bit about it in the Black communities, especially during this last election, 2016. We did not show up.
Mm-mm.
Right? And so if in Miami, you have 350,000 Black people in a small area, and you're telling me 30,000 people in that area voted, Black people voted, we didn't show up to try to win anything. We did it. And you can't say your vote don't matter if you never test that theory. Right. You have to give it an opportunity to matter. They have to actually prove us that it doesn't matter by us all going as Black people and voting and then not getting the outcome that we voted for before we can even say that. And I think that we haven't done it. We haven't went and voted in droves like we should to be able to even say that is true. I think we just feel that way because all of the presidents we've seen have been people that we really wouldn't have voted for the most part. Mm-hmm. But by the time it got to that level, we didn't take care of our business on the local level anyway. And so we come and we have these two people that we don't believe in either one of them really cares whether they're Republican or Democrat. And that's who we have to vote for. So guess what? We're either going to vote or we're not. And a lot of us choose not to. I do want to say this. Just because we believe in Black empowerment does not mean that we don't believe in love for everyone and equality for everyone. So we're not saying that us, having pro-black beliefs mean we have anti-white beliefs.
Or anti-anybody.
I think a lot of times that anytime you come and you try to have a conversation about empowering Black people and what we need to be doing to get better, it is almost immediately seen as a knock or a hit to anybody that doesn't look like you, and that's not the case. We just have some ground to make up, as Black people, and we need, to talk about all the ways and everything that we can do to do that, to try to start making up the ground so we can be the best we can be.
I thank you so much for adding that too, because yes, just as any community of people that is in America, us in general, no matter what skin color, what language it is that you speak, we want to make sure that we all are able to are have the opportunity to be our best.
Right.
I forget where I heard this, but it's if America says that, well, we want life, liberty, and happiness for the people, then Black people are still in life. And I leave that thought for whoever is listening so that they understand that regardless if you're Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Hawaiian, Samoan, white, Black, Jewish, Islam, Christian, or Muslim, Christian, whatever the case will be, that you understand that too, that Black people are still working on simply life, and we're just trying to ensure that we can get the other two opportunities that America says that we're all able to have. And to my favorite educator, my auntie and biggest inspiration in life, Alphalisha Johnson, thank you so much for joining on this podcast this week with me. Also to my audience, I thank you so much for tuning in every single Sunday to the Anxiety series. And to join in with these open dialogues that we have and hear yourself on the next episode, never hesitate to go to anchor.fm/thepoliticalpoet and just leave a message, or go ahead and download the app as well. Another thing that I'm always open for you to do is leave me a message on Instagram, and you can find me at Jamia Zarzuela on whatever topics it is that you believe that we should touch on for future episodes. Until next time, thank you, and speak free. While you can listen to Poetry, Prose, and Politics wherever you stream your podcasts, be it Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm does allow you to leave me a message so that you can join in on the conversation. You can also support this podcast with small monthly donations to help sustain future episodes. You can donate as little as 99 cents a month. Just visit anchor.fm/thepoliticalpoet. That's anchor.fm/THAPOLITICALPOET. Wow, that's a mouthful. And then click support. Lastly, don't forget to follow me. And you can find me on almost all social media platforms at Jamia Zarzuela. And as always, guys, speak free. Until next time, catch you later.